Hey there, viewers, and welcome back to the Self-Made Auto Channel. That's a 2010 Hyundai. It's the Accent. It's got the big 1.6, and it doesn't run because it doesn't crank. And even if it did, it still wouldn't run, according to the customer. So Josh and I towed this in yesterday, just a couple blocks down, so we just went and grabbed it with the Tundra and skidded it over here. Indeed, when we got to the customer's house, wouldn't crank. You know, lights are nice and bright. They claimed they tried jumping it, and so I didn't even bother. Yeah, lights are bright, the dingers ding, the blower blows, the wipers wipe, and that's it. Doesn't click. Tried it in neutral, tried it in park, so it seems like a bad starter. However, the customer did tell me that prior to it stopping cranking, that he would have what I would have called an extended crank. He says he has to crank it for multiple seconds, multiple times to get the vehicle to start. Just sounds like he crank. He says eventually it does start and then seems to run perfectly fine all the rest of the day. And I do believe he told me this happened when the weather started turning cold. So today it's about 8 degrees out. Yesterday when we were over there, it was like 28. And then it's been pretty cold here the past several weeks. However, I'll tell you the whole story. I see a crank sensor in the back from the AutoZone. He told me that it had a code for the crank sensor a little bit ago. So maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, we'll just make up a number. Had the light come on, had a crank sensor code, boom, slapped the old crank sensor in it, the Durlast. Apparently the code is gone. Code cleared, never came back. Now my question was, did the extended crank come before or after the aftermarket crank sensor? He thought about it longer than I thought he should have. And the general summary there is he thought that it was extended cranking prior to the crank sensor. Okay, so that's still kind of questionable, but that's all I know. Battery, I threw a charger on it overnight. It was mostly charged, like 68% charged, so I just threw it on a 2 amp, let it get fully charged, so we should be good there. I checked it this morning, it still doesn't crank, so fortunately it did not fix itself just from sitting inside. So let's check it out, see if we're gonna need a starter, and then if we do get a starter, what are we gonna need after that? Well, I can see the back of the starter there. It appears to be melted. Right on there. All right, let's see if we get any clicking. Like I say, she looks pretty toasty there. I'm just gonna grab a jump wire. Let's see if I can do this without lighting anything on fire. Here we go. Lots of sparks, that's all we get. Alright, nothing there. No clicking, no nothing. Everything's melted. Oh, you guys can see I got you way back here. Hopefully you can see it. Is what it is, I suppose. To be expected. One of the local parts stores has a starter for it. A brand I've never used. I've got that coming. They don't open until 8. I'll look in service info, see what it takes to get this thing out. We'll get that swapped. So a couple things I'm thinking, well, thinking about doing a starter is, was the starter actually the cause of the previous no starts? And the reason, that I might think that is because sometimes customers, or just people in general, don't really pay attention to, let's say, the cranking cadence of their starter. Where normally it's like, that's not an actual Hyundai starter there, but you know what I'm saying, and now all of a sudden, you've got one in there that's like, the starter's starting to fail, it's, making noise, the engine's doing something, but it's not cranking, at a high enough RPM to get the engine to start, so you try it 4 or 5 times to get it warmed up, type stuff. So those are things I think of, but it's just all speculation at this point. The other thing I think of too is in the wintertime will see this. I don't think I've seen it on Hyundai yet. I used to get this in on Hondas fairly often, was a failed or skewed coolant temp sensor. I think I've done videos on those in the past. You know, the telltale on the Hondas, you'd hop in the vehicle, go to get it started, and you know, wiggy-diggy-diggy-diggy-diggy, just crank, kind of cough a little bit. But if you were observant, you could see by looking at the temperature gauge that it was slightly off the cold mark. I hate these style clamps because I'm about to lose a little washer. It would be slightly off the cold mark, you know, indicating that the vehicle thought that it was warmed up slightly. You know, no codes or anything because it was within its parameters. Why did I take that clamp loose? Anybody know? We'll go drop the washer on this one. I hate these style clamps, man. Come on, Hyundai. That little donger, does that thing stay? Nope, that goes. That sucks. We're just gonna have to go ahead and lose the washer here. We can't, bro, because we need to be able to put this thing back together. You need to calm down, man. It's too early. Too early to be pissed off. No, it's not. Let's see. Oh, the clamp's actually opening up slightly. Don't drop it, you ding dong. I got my magnet here. Let's see if I can't. This seems like something General Motors would come up with. That'll piss off the Chevy people. There we go. Get that, get this. So, it's just a super stupid design. If you work on these things, you know. It's horrible. Oh no, this little rubber donger does stay. Stick that back in. Let's go get a hose pick. Wire hose clamps. I think that's what they're called. I don't know. Come on, man. Been a while. Been a while since this bad baby's been off here. Okay, let's see if we can't get up underneath there. Oh, there we go. Oh, hello. Wow, that was easy. That's a wire style hose clamp. We'll have to get it all broke loose here and everything. There we go. Then I'll show you how to put them all back together all fancy like. Smells like gasoline. I'll give it that. And it's got a little whiff of the hydrocarbons ripping up out of there. Whoa. There's our starter way down there. Do we need to get rid of the air box the rest of the way? According to service data, we do. It says remove the air box, which has the main brain attached to it. Oh boy. The main brain box. That one's not coming off. That one's broke. Come on, little fella. There we go. Be nice. There's that one. And there's one way down yonder there. I need to get an extension for it. I think that should be it. Easy. Easy, he says. It's always easy if you remove all three of the bolts. Easy like Sunday morning right there. Got a little bit of stuff in there, not too bad. Dump that out, garbage. Okay, here we are. There it is. Huzzah. It also says we have to remove the shifting cable. I don't know why, so I'm not going to at this point anyhow. I'm going to show you where the starter is. We have that bolt there that has a little red mark on it with the big ground wire. That's part of the starter bolt. And then the other one down there above those silver maple seeds, and that is the 2 bolts that hold the starter in. Now I assume maybe they want you to remove the starter or the shift cable because that's the hole it's got to come up out of. I don't know, you can probably fit her through there. Shift these little wires to the side, maybe take that wire bracket off. That's probably what I'll do. Looks like 2 bolts there. Unhook these wires and kind of set that. That'll give a big hole right there, and then we can give birth to that thing. Alrighty then. I thought that would be a separate little ordeal. Looks like it's got some bushings and whatnot coming through it. Yeah, I don't want to break those. Yeah, let me get a little, well, you know, I got a pair of pliers right here. See if we can't get these, the bottom one's halfway out. Let me try that one. Yeah, what the world? Come on, little guy. You're almost out of there. I just want to get these connectors off. I decided to unhook the shift cable. It's only 1 bolt there on the transmission, or 1 nut. I went ahead and did that. There we go. Let me see, we got 1 more little wire clip there. Might as well, I don't even know what these are. Some kind of electrical connector. This one already broke or something? That's weird. The release tab is kind of hidden on that one. Down inside here, like they don't want you to fiddle with it. Here we are, meddling with things you ought not be meddling with. Not really. Single wire, dual wire, maybe like a temp sensor and a speed sensor or something on the trans. Who knows? Yeah, let me get a regular wire clip tool here. Come on, little shifty. What the hell? Well, bracket's really stuck right to that thing. Let's see. I don't know which way we want to go with this. I guess we'll just kind of stuff it up there for the time being. I think we just need room. Push, push, push to get that thing up through there. I think that's going to give us enough room. I'm going to unplug the speed sensor down here. There, we got enough stuff unplugged. We should have an engine light when we're done because we'll forget something. Okay, looks like 14 mils on those bolts. Looks like this one we're going to have to, the one down below here, we're going to have to give that little guy a handy all the way. Let me get those cracked. Now, prior to doing this, you should go underneath there and unhook your battery cable. I'll give you that little clue, the little free tip, I say. Oh, it's probably wishful thinking here. Oh, nope, it's not. Nope, just heard the starter fall. Wow, I didn't think she was gonna do it. The old DeWalt really doesn't have much left in her. Not like them Milwaukees do. If I had my Milwaukee, I'd spin the car right off the lift. trying to sound like a Milwaukee guy. I think I'm the only guy on the internet that doesn't use Milwaukee. That's because they don't like me. At least that's what they told me. You're not allowed to say anything bad about their tools. Oh. AKA don't tell the truth. Maybe they're great tools, I don't know. I know my experience with the ones I bought was terrible. They didn't last very long. So I just threw them away. Well, I gave them away. I got a buddy who's a Milwaukee fanboy. Give him all the batteries, threw all the tools in the garbage, because they were all broke anyhow. So that's that. She went full nuclear meltdown there on the back of the solenoid. Was that from a loose connection? More than likely. Remember, gosh, why do I remember this stuff? That bugs me. I think we did a video on a Kia Sportage, maybe, probably 6-7 years ago, maybe longer than that. I think that was an intermittent no start or something, and I remember getting the money shot. We zoomed in on the starter, and I could see it down there sparking and arcing and carrying on, and then it would start to crank. And I don't remember if that was a slow crank or not, but that's usually what happens here. Terminal fretting, you know, the little bit of a poor connection, and well, now all of a sudden she's arcing a little bit, and then goes into meltdown. So who knows? Hopefully this fixes both of his problems. I kind of doubt it though, but I'm hopeful. And that's all we can do, folks. Be hopeful. And wait for the part to show up now. And hope it's right. New starter showed up. Got a Hyundai logo on it, so that's good. Looks pretty good. Okay, best I can tell, we're in good shape. While I was waiting, I went under there on the battery cable and took a little piece of emery cloth, wherever that is, scuffed up that cable a little bit. It wasn't too dirty. Alright, let's get this baby slid down in there. And just like every good YouTube video, you missed all of it because I didn't hit record. I was talking to the very lovely Mrs. O on a very private, very sensitive topic, so I couldn't. We were just talking about a customer, let's be honest. But in order to put the starter in, I did everything I did to take it out in the reverse order. Now I sound just like service data. To install, reverse order of removal. Okay, shift cable is very tight. Those two rando wires plugged back in, the speed sensor plugged back in. Both of the bolts on the starter torqued to factory spec. Let's reinstall the brain box. It's actually a box. Airbox / brain box combo. Little guy first. Even if you feel the urge to pump copious amounts of dielectric grease in the connector, don't. Okay? It's the only advice I can give you. Now, looks pretty good. Good enough for what we need to do. That's in. I did fix our clamp while I was waiting. As long as the clamp still has some spring to it, don't pop this thing apart. They work fine. You know, in theory, these things work great. However, if that part pops off, then the bolt pops off, and the little washer there pops off, you ain't real happy when it all happens. Now, we need to, it would be nice to reinstall this in the same way that it was, which is right there, because the thing is, if this guy ends up taking this to the car show, you don't want to be the one responsible for him not coming home with a first place trophy because the clamp wasn't lined up like the factory. You know what I'm saying? It happens. I've heard of it happening. That's not something I'd want to be responsible for. None of my watch. So always line your clamps back up. Try to find that, Judge. There's one. I didn't show the starter, but by golly, we're going to show the airbox. There's two. Come here. There it is. Everything is factory spec right back in there. Torqued. Double check the torque. That's very tight. Alright, I think we're pretty good. Raise it up. Hook the starter cable back up. Find out what the OG problem was. I did not show you that process. Why start showing you stuff now? It's not really in a great spot to record. It's weird the marker lights came on. Very tight. This one we didn't have loose. It's very tight. Alright, place your bets on what's going to happen. Oh, the marker lights are on because the switch is on. I hear the fuel pump. Huh, sounds to me like it's flooded. Let me go to full throttle. Oh! Wide open throttle, boys. Okay, I'm letting back off the throttle. It sounds like it's flooded. Okay, just wanted to walk behind the car to get a waft. Not as gassy as I thought. Big plume of blue smoke back there. However, we do know prior to all this happening, the customer was cranking it. So I've shut it off. I want to grab a scan tool. We'll just go key on engine off. We'll look at some generic OBD2 data, kind of see what things look like, even though we've had it running. Definitely sounded flooded when we started it, or when we initially started cranking. Was only kind of hitting on one cylinder there, maybe two. Yeah, I guess it does smell a little more gassy now that I'm getting a bigger waft. Oil's not way over full. As a matter of fact, it's down on the low mark. I was just kind of thinking, if we had an injector or something that was flooding out a cylinder, but acting like I could smell it, but clearly I can't because the whole shop is full of fumes at this point. Yeah, let's look at some generic data, see what the coolant sensors look like, intake air temp, just kind of some of the run-of-the-mill stuff here. And then what we'll do is I'll start it, warm it up, take it out, rip it around a little bit there, and then we'll let it sit out somewhere where it'll be convenient to push back in if we have to, and then see what happens. I meant to go in the OBD2, but I accidentally went into the OEM because I let it just kind of do its thing. Oddly enough, it appears to have one code stored in there. Can we look at that prior to this finishing? I don't think so. I'm gonna let this finish scanning. We'll see what code's stored in there, and then we will go back into the OBD2 side unless this gives us some sort of direction. Loading. I'm so excited, I can't imagine what it is. Okay, here we go. Report's been generated successfully. Crankshaft sensor performance. Oh, he told me he fixed it. Says present history. Okay, let's back out of here. Now that we've seen that. Easy. Does that code get generated when there is an extended crank? You know, that could be just a product of a symptom, or it could be this thing must be in the middle of an update. Let's just jump into generic here and see if there's, you know, a pending code, a permanent code. Well, 2010 should have permanent codes. See if we can't figure out any more information there. But read fault code mode 3, 7, and 10. No fault codes. Okay. So there's that. That's interesting that it doesn't show anything in generic OBD2. That's a little concerning. I'm going to jump in live data here. I'm not going to bore you with that. I'm just going to scan through it. We'll select everything, and I'm going to see if anything jumps out. If it doesn't, like I say, we're going to go for a rip. Oh, I get it. I'm just sitting here like, man, this freaking car stinks. It smells like black ice. Onyx frost. AKA black ice. Way to go, Bath and Body Works. Thinking they could fool me. Give it a fancy name and the same stink. Not a big black ice guy. Aussie seems to run like a champ. Good power. Oh, back off the vibrators. Trying to look at scan data here. Just fingering through that, I don't see anything weird that really jumps out to me right away. So I just pulled over here in this general area, and I'm looking at scan data. I said, something. What the frick did this guy get on his finger? Just a minute. Suspected spam. Here's what I'm seeing, folks. So look at this, okay? Fuel trim, pegged out, plus 25, plus 25. Rear O2 sensor, pegged out, pig rich. Upstream O2 sensor, pig lean. Okay? What's that mean, Erico? I don't know. I'm just showing you what I'm seeing. I pushed too many buttons. Should have bought a real scan tool with this. Let's see. Unselect. We'll get that so we know the scan tool is working. Long terms. 021, 022. Short term. We're going to hit the OK button. Yeah. Here you go, lady. You want a problem? You got a problem. Why our long term hasn't updated, I don't know. But here's your problem. This car's flooding itself out. Okay, follow along. Oh, we just went back into closed loop, must be. I should have put the loop status on the screen. So I'm holding the RPMs up. Yeah, look, our front O2 sensor is pooched. The front O2 is not working. Front O2 is telling the computer, saying, hey, main brain box, we're lean, add more gas. So down here, the main brain box is saying, pour the coal to it, boys. Gets her up to 25%, high as it can go, 25% correction. The rear O2, meanwhile, is down here choking its brains out because it's flooding. Yeah, so the rear O2 is telling the truth here. Front O2, liar, liar, your pants are on fire. Just trying to get it to come alive. Not, man, about 0.18 volts. Okay, let's see if the rear O2 is responsive. Let's make it lean. Pump them brakes, old son. Trying to create a vacuum leak. Pumping my little heart away here. Now that it's lost fuel control, is it gonna go down? No, fuel control keeps coming back. Oh, we almost stalled the engine there. I think because it's pouring so much fuel to it, we can't even see a response there. Let's go down the ROAD. We want that in volts. How do we get it in a graph? Hey, we got a graph. And this is bank 1 sensor 1. Let's see. I have to openly admit, I am not a fan of launch scan tools, okay? I think the Harbor Freight Icon T10 is a great buy for somebody. But if I had to do this every day working in a professional shop, I will have to openly admit to you that I would not own launch scan tools. Not when it comes to looking at data. They're nowhere near as intuitive as an Altel. Okay, now we got that out of the way. You ready? Pedal to the plastic, boys. Wide open throttle mode. Shift, baby. There she goes. Okay, our O2 sensor cannot read wide open throttle. All right, let me pull over because we want to make sure that our rear O2 is responsive and can read fuel cut mode, which is when all the injectors turn off. Okay, this is some kind of old school. Oh, she got some lope to it. She's acting like she's all camped up. Let's see if the rear O2 you're gonna get some flying lessons here. Okay, there's our rear O2. Oh, now we gotta wait for these cars to go by. What we want to see is, can the rear O2 drop down to 0? Does it recognize a lean condition? We gotta wait for this one last car. What a play on words. I'm gonna boycott Bath and Body Works now. I don't know what that means, but. Okay, here we go. Oh shoot, now we're misfiring. Just a minute. Let's pull over and restart it because we either dropped a coil or something. Yeah. Let's shut it off. Hopefully we're not making a mistake here. There we go. Money lights off. We're back to running on all 4. Hit yes. Their data. Ah, damn it. Let me get up and get away from this bridge here. Here we go. Does it go into fuel cut mode? Bingo, bango, it does. So our rear O2 is responsive. Back on the throttle. Back off the throttle. Boom, goes into fuel cut mode. Okay. I'm gonna make the call. It needs an O2 sensor. Ding dong, ding dong. Why does it need an O2 sensor and why would that make it not start? Let me tell you my theory. Here comes the very lovely Mrs. O. So what I'm what I'm thinking is, so obviously that makes corrections to the fuel trim. As you can see, the front O2 sensor's stuck lean. The computer's just pouring the cold to it, and we know that because the rear O2 sensor is not a liar. And it says, hey, I'm super rich. How come this car's not setting rich codes? Well, I don't know. But I think at the end of the day, what happens is when he goes to start it, okay, so the car's going to be an open loop at that point. It's going to start based off from its learned fuel conditions from the last time it was driven. So it's all, you're driving your car, it's learning, the main brain box is saying, hey, we need to add this much fuel. So the next time you go to start the car, it thinks these fuel trims are making a 25% correction, and I think it's just flooding it out. That could be just a bunch of crap I'm making up. But at the end of the day, I think that's what we need to fix. So I'm going to do a quick check on the O2 sensor, make sure the wiring's good. If the wiring's good, the heater's working, at that point, we just put an O2 sensor in it, get these fuel trims and fuel corrections back to where they should be, and then go from there. And that's all I can tell you. Hey, Mrs. O, come over here. Let me show you what this Bath and Body Works is doing. So I've got this horrible, I have this hatred for black ice air fresheners. So I get in, I'm like, man, this car smells like black ice. But oh, it doesn't. It smells like Onyx Frost. What a great play on words, isn't it?
Right.
Who do they think they're fooling? This is probably $9 when you could go get one of the stinky black Christmas trees for a nickel.
A nickel.
No, it still stinks. Usually there's a very subtle undertone of the marijuana in the black ice vehicles. Have you noticed that? You don't get in a lot of cars. Yeah. No, I'm not smelling the Mary Jane, the devil's lettuce, I don't know what else they call it, the ganja, the sticky green, the kind bud. What else do they call it? I don't know. It's all New York. That's what it smells like anymore.
Yeah.
Now that it's like everywhere as you go, it's like, it's the norm.
Yep.
That's it. So stick around. Let's see what we can do with my 9 o'clock here.
Yes.
I'm fashionably late. Look at me.
Fashionably.
Yeah, 10 minutes. How long have they been sitting in there waiting?
Yeah.
Yeah, waiter's gonna wait. That's what I say. All right, we got the 9er taken care of. Oh, good. The O2 sensor's right on top. We don't even need to put it on a lift. But for some reason we unplugged our scan tool. We're gonna break out the old Autel, let her get connected here. Talking about the, launch versus Autel. I mean, I don't want to talk down to a company or anything, but I would say if I'm expressing solely my opinion, which it is, I would say Autel is far superior to launch-based scan tools. And at least their format, do they work? Yeah, they do. Do they display data? Absolutely. Do they do some things Autel doesn't? Sometimes. Does Autel do some things that they don't? Sometimes. But at the end of the day, when I just want to get stuff done and I want, my layout to be useful. So yeah, we did throw those misfire codes after we gave it the beans there. And we had to cycle the key. So I'm not surprised with that, but yeah, no pending codes on the running rich. We'll pop into live data. I guess what I was getting at, yeah, they both work, but there are layouts and formats and menus that are much easier to use, one scan tool versus the other. Now, somebody else may have a different opinion, which is great because that's why we have opinions. We can agree to disagree. And leave it at that. We're not trying to start a pissing match here. Okay, so she's still warmed up. What we want to do is find the O2 sensor. Interesting because it shows it here at 450 millivolts. Let's just make sure we weren't having some kind of weird scan tool malfunction. Let's just go ahead and start it. Look at O2 data, and I'm going to go ahead and bring up some other data as well. Long-term fuel trim. And then we're gonna get short-term fuel trim. And short-term fuel trim is pegged out. Okay, so she's not lying to us. Short-term fuel trim's pegged out. Long-term hasn't populated yet. And that's that. Back into open loop. Yeah, it's got her getting pegged right out. She's climbing. Rear O2 sensor is not quite alive yet, but we can see our front O2 appears to be unresponsive, at least on the rich side of things. Let's shut it off. So we're key on, engine off at this point. Everything's roasty toasty. We're gonna bring up just the front O2. We're gonna set our minimum at 0, our maximum at 1. We're gonna hit OK. You know, if I could do stuff like that with the launch that quickly and that efficiently, I 100% would. But at the end of the day, you can't. Okay. That's all we're gonna say about it. Which stinks. It would be cool, like I say, if it works, because you got these companies standing there every day, email, oh, use our scan tool, use our scan tool. Obviously, I took on the one from Harbor Freight because I wanted to see if that was a good value for my viewers. In which case, I would still say yes. Yes, it is. Yes, indeed, I would say. In a professional shop setting, sure, yeah, it may work, but you're gonna ride the struggle bus around for a little bit. I'm not paid by Altel to endorse this either. I just tell you guys what I see. Let's, oh, that's the new crank sensor there in the front he put in. I'm gonna just take that out of the bracket. We're gonna bend this bracket up so we can get to our wiring harness here. For the O2 sensor, we may have to look up a diagram. We may or may not. We know which is which. We know that the 2 white wires are the heater circuit. We don't really care about that so much. And then we have a gray and a black, so we likely have a signal in the ground. Let's go get a test light. You stay right there. Where's my little testy light? Okay, I found one close enough. Not one I want, but it's one we're going to use. What do we want to do now? We want to grab a hold of that signal wire. We're going to hook this onto a ground here. We want to grab a hold of that signal wire. We want to see, can we pull the signal down to 0 volts? And I'm going to take a big fat guess that the signal wire here is on the top left. And that's where I'd be wrong. Okay, the signal wire on the O2 is the black wire. So I touch that, bingo bango, we go from our bias voltage of 450 millivolts down to 0. Great, so now what? Well, Rocco, you want to get it high? Get high! So we'll hold on to this end of the test light, we'll touch the battery positive with just our finger, and does it drive the signal high? It went high. Okay, see what I'm saying there? So hang on to this, we'll just touch that with our finger, and we drive it high, 450. High, oops. High, 450, touch it with our finger. Can't quite drive her low, but we can drive it high. And then we can drive it low, okay? So we can drive the signal high and we can drive the signal low by putting very low amounts of voltage to it. And that's all we need to know. Signal wire is intact. The O2 should work just pleasantly without a heater on the upstream side of things. We can still check the heater. I don't know its theory and operation as far as like, hey, when do you turn on? Do we have to talk dirty to it? I don't know. Let's check the O2 ground. Stand by. We will do that using the most worthless test light on the planet, the LED test light. Reach in, give it a little touchy. Oh, hello. Hello. Okay, that lights up. So that tells me our Our sensor ground is good, or at least good enough. Is that the proper way? No. Does it work? 99% of the time, every time. And let's get something different for the O2 heater here. Let's do this. Back out of here, because we can do that. Hit here, we're gonna hit close. And then we're gonna go to bin, auto detect, and we're gonna let it find the bin. We're gonna jump into the OEM side of things and see if by tickling its little button, we can just turn it on. The O2 heater, that is. There's that. We are in Hyundai USA. We'll hit OK. We'll hit OK again. I don't know if this is a special function, but I'm assuming it. Maybe. I'm hoping that it is. Let's see. We're going to jump into the eng. And active tests, perhaps. And then I'm going to speed read through them real quick. And I'm not seeing it there currently. So we can disable the coils, we can disable the injectors, turn a couple actuators on, and that's all we can do. Now I don't know if we can look in live data and see an O2 heater. We'll type in the word heater, it's not there. We'll type in an acronym HTR. Now we'll just go with O2. Nothing there. Now we'll go with HEGO. Nope, it's not a HEGO. We'll go Oxy. Okay, there's oxygen. So we can see oxygen sensor operation. Maybe that means heater. I'm not real sure. But we'll keep those up on the screen. And then I'm gonna start it and see if that status switches from off to on. I assume it's talking about the heater, okay? I don't know how those heaters work, if they're full-time power. I guess we could figure that out. It may be a full-time power ground side switch, or a full-time ground power side switch, or it just works based off of magic. It's one of these two. Okay, neither one of those are full-time whatevers. Neither one of those are full-time grounds. Let's see if one of those is full-time power. Yes. Okay, so we have full-time power on one pin, and I'm going to assume, by the gambling man, that the other one is going to be a ground when we start it, or some variation of a ground. So we'll leave our test light there. Let me reach in and fire it up. Contact. See how it's pulsing? That's because it's probably running about a 95% duty cycle. Even though on scan data, it says off. I don't know what that means. Okay? So, it doesn't matter. We just proved everything works. At the end of the day, that's all we wanted to prove. Rule number 1, never trust your scan tool. Rule number 2, never trust scan data. Rule number 3, never trust some scumbag on the internet making YouTube videos saying, this is how I fix cars. Even when he uses his hands like this. That'd be me. What did we prove? We proved all 4 wires here. We proved that the 2 white ones here on the bottom, which are 2 light colored wires, are generally speaking, this is the sometimes but not always case, the heater circuit. Whether they're 2 grays or 2 blacks or 2 whites, they're the heater circuits. We made sure that we had a full-time power, and then we had a ground that is obviously ECM controlled, duty cycle controlled, and that's it. We proved that ground side, or the heater worked, and then we proved that the signal worked. So that's the black wire here, which was the signal wire. We were able to drive it high and drive it low. And then we checked to verify that the sensor ground was good using our LED test light. Now, we're faced with the dilemma of trying to remove the O2 sensor out of a hot manifold, which I've never had good luck with, but we're gonna try to crack it. If it cracks, great. If it doesn't, great. We'll wait get her when she's cold. I'm gonna bend this bracket back down. We're gonna hook the boy's crank sensor back up that he 99% probably didn't need, but the guy at AutoZone diagnosed it. Oh yeah, like a glove. Now let's get a 1/2 inch, a long one. Oh, he's got that big one. Ooh, that's a radiator neck breaking machine right there. It's well, whoa, dude. There, this way here we can have a little velocity when we come over and hit that radiator neck. Mother of pearl! Crisis averted. How many parts do you think each year? I wonder what percentage of the part sales at part stores are improperly diagnosed, not needed parts. That's what I would like to know. Wonder if there is a way to know that, not even based off, they can do their returns and see what their, return ratio is. But I would be curious, how many parts are sold each day and month at the parts store, which are completely unnecessary. And how does that drive the industry from a manufacturing standpoint? Let's say, that's a Duralast crank sensor, they're buying them from, Wingdong, China somewheres. But how does that influence how many they make each year, Does that make sense to you? Let's say it generated that code because we had an extended crank and it's just some default thing in the PCM, some part of the algorithm. Some nerd programmed it in there. If you have an extended crank, we set this crank sensor performance code based off of nothing. And these cars are notorious for it, and as a result of that, they end up selling hundreds and hundreds of these crank sensors for these engines each year, even though none of them are ever really bad. You know what I'm saying? You ever think about that? That's the kind of stuff that keeps me up at night. Ugh. Boom, we got the new one. It's quite interesting that this isn't throwing a code. Perhaps his driving habits aren't that of which can generate this code, but your fuel system, rich and lean, generally will throw a code right away. And this is obviously running pig rich. However, the computer sees it as running lean. Because this little guy's a liar. You're lying. So let's plug that back up. Stick it back in the holder here. Okay, that's in the holder. It's plugged up. Everything's plugged in. Let's fire it up and look at the scan tool. Here we go. That's it. Okay, that's up and running. Grab our scan tool here. Oh boy. She's running rich now, boys. Let's go ahead. I like to go generic OBD2. I like to do things generically. That way I know nobody's lying to me. Because on the OEM side of stuff, you can have substituted values. It can fill in a parameter that's not true. Generic OBD2 is not supposed to do that. Never trust it though. Okay, let's go to live data. We're gonna have to wait for this car. It's gonna have to make some corrections, as the fuel trim's correct. Give her a couple of those for some unknown reason. Come on, Altel, pick up the pace here. We're gonna go OXY. There's one, there's two. And then we want fuel system status because we want to make sure that we're in open and closed loop. And then we want our trims. So we want our short term, we want our long term, and select. Boom. Now we're talking, boys. Now we're looking good. Open loop fault. That's not good. Closed loop, there we go. And we can see look at our short term right now. She's cranking her back. Not too much, -5. It's gonna change as the O2 sensor oscillates here. Okay, as the O2 sensor switches from rich to lean, we're gonna see, showing my speech like I've been drinking all day, boys. As it goes from rich to lean, our short term is gonna adjust. Eventually it'll adjust our long term. But we can see now that our upstream O2 sensor is working. Work it. We're gonna go to this here, we're gonna go 0, we're gonna go 1, we're gonna set that up, we're gonna go 0, we're gonna go 1, and we're gonna have a look. We're gonna see if our rear O2 is gonna come to life. Go out and drive it. From what I'm seeing, looks like we're gonna have to go drive it. But our front O2, 100% is working now. I'm happy with that. We're making fuel trim corrections. I'm stoked, super pumped up. Hopefully this resolves all this fellow's issues. If not, we just fixed a problem, and we still may have to fix the problem. I pulled over in this general area again just to have a look, see what things are looking like. So we're in closed loop. Our fuel trim, our total fuel trim is almost perfect. So that's so, you know, subtract your long term from your short term, and yeah, I mean our fuel trims are going to end up running right near 0, which is great. Our front O2's working, our rear O2's coming to life. Everything looks great. We're in closed loop. It goes into power enrichment, it goes into lean mode. Yeah, our fuel trims, like I say, they're correcting. They're gonna be darn near 0. I mean, if it's plus or minus 10%, I'm happy with it. Yeehaw. So I'm gonna continue to drive the car. Just want to be able to hit all of the cell blocks, if you will, so it can start to build a fuel model for the, you know, for the trims and everything. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to let the car sit. And if all of a sudden, ta-da, you know, it's a miracle, it's all fixed, everything works great, then great. If not, I'll come get you guys again, but I suspect that we have this car fixed. It was just trying to start based off from false inputs. It should have thrown a rich code, which I think it may eventually, but like I say, maybe his driving habits don't allow it to, to do that, to meet the criteria to set, you know, your PO 171, 172, 174, 175, you know, your rich and lean codes. I don't know. It's hard to say. But I do know when you see stuff like this laying on a passenger seat, well, there's always that possibility that they've been DIYing it. And, yeah, the light comes on, you know, it's running rich. Oh, my buddy says it's not a problem. Or, you know, the guy at AutoZone or whatever. Who knows? You never get the whole story. And that's rule number 5. I don't know if that's true. Insty, folks. Facebook. If you have any questions on this, why I did what I did, or why I made a determination that I did, put them in the comment section. If I don't get a chance to answer it, I'm sure other folks down there will. A lot of smart people in our comment section. Tons of them. And just remember, viewers, if I can do it, you can do it. Thanks for watching.